And what's your advice to those people whose parents, because obviously we're assuming that everybody wants to be independent, which isn't true. But we're also assuming that parents want their children to be independent, which is not true at all either, especially in these days. A lot of parents prefer their children to be at home for as much as possible because they just feel more close to them or more protective, or, it's not.
Yeah, of course.
So what's your advice to those parents? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's bad? Is it just a sign of the times? Or do you think the sooner the better? Do you think those parents should let go of their children as soon as possible?
I think the parents, there comes a point when the parents should just let their children do whatever they want because they're old enough to be able to make rational decisions. And whether the parents think that it's right or wrong, they can obviously express their opinion, because at the end of the day, you're my parents. Because if you think I'm doing something wrong, you guys would say it. But if I still make that decision, you guys, frankly, you can't do anything about it, Just if it blows up on my face, and you guys can say, I told you so.
That's what we've been telling you since you were maybe 15 or so. I think our advice to you is always saying, I'm going to tell you this because I'm your father and it's my job and duty to tell you, but then you can do whatever the hell you want with that advice, right? Maybe it's not the best advice to give a child, but that's the approach we've always taken, and it seems to have worked.
Well, that's because most of the time I know you guys are right, because deep down what I'm kind of explaining I know is not really the right thing to do. But in this case, let's say it's a 26-year-old guy and they wanna move out, and the parents are like, no, you have to stay. Then if the person has a valid reason, and so
as a young person, what's your advice to those parents who just refuse to let their children leave the nest without even questioning whether their child wants to or not, which could be a thing, right?
I think the best thing to do is just sit down with your, I don't want to say child, with your son or daughter, because they're not children at our point, I guess, anymore. I guess we kind of still are, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Just sit down and have a proper conversation of why they want to do it. See if they have proper reason, if there's actually a plan or logic behind it. If there is, then what's the reason to be scared, Obviously you can't miss them, but it is what it is. It's, like I said, it's going to happen eventually.
You have to live your own lives.
And
I think something that we're not touching upon is, and I don't know if Mami will agree with me, is the personal satisfaction that comes with the first steps of independence. Things that may seem like a pain in the butt, things that are scary, things that are even trivial at first, when you've never ever done them yourself and you finally do them yourself, things like opening your first bank account or getting your first phone card or your first phone contract or whatever it is, or even making your own first meal. All that is, at least if I remember rightly from my time, all that is very satisfying at first. You finally say, nobody prepares you for it, but once you start doing it, you think, oh, wow, man, I'm doing this on my own. I've decided to make my meal today and decided to have chicken instead of eggs. I've actually gone to that shop and sorted it out myself, and I'm back and I've done it myself without having to ask my parents how it's done, or without holding my mom's hand or my dad's hand while doing it. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about, because they're considered just, things that you do anyway. Right? If you're an adult, that's what you do. You go to the bank to sort things out, or you go to the electrician, you call an electrician, things like that. But if you've never done them before, you have to bear in mind that those things are cool. It's exciting to do those things for the first time. I mean, I don't know if that's been your case in the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe not the kind of menial things like the doing your own laundry and stuff like that. I kind of just did, because I had to. I wasn't really like excited about doing it. I wasn't like, oh yay, finally my first laundry. My first batch of laundry. I was kind of like.
Yeah, but at one point, didn't you think like, hey, mom would be proud of me?
More for the cooking stuff, because I think the laundry is kind of like.
Yeah, laundry might be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah,
as far as personal satisfaction.
I guess it is kind of true that it is quite satisfying. But for me, what was very satisfying was especially it was the latest thing I did was the getting my own my social security number, I guess,
Yeah.
from in Ireland, because I did that all by myself. I had to, you know, fill the forms out. I had to get my proof of residency from Linda, and I had to like follow up on her and ask her for it again, and then I had to go there. And thankfully, it wasn't a very easy process and very straightforward. Thankfully, so it wasn't super complicated because I'm European, so it makes it a lot easier. But now that I think about it, it is quite a big thing, because it is probably like it is my first proper piece of documentation and kind of, I guess,
bureaucratic process.
Government issued thing that I've done by myself fully, because normally I've done it basically entirely with mum, because you kind of work with paperwork and
she knows the ropes.
And you know the ropes, and also you know everyone here, so it's a lot faster and quicker when you do it. So yeah, I think that's probably the thing that made me the most proud, I guess.